Hi, my name is Randy Von Bosse, and I am here with Tami Tran, who is running for a 4-year seat for our City Council in this upcoming election. Thank you so much for coming and answering a few questions for me.
Thank you for having me, Randy.
No problem. We'll just go ahead and jump in. The first question I want to ask is, why are you running for City Council? Is there something that motivated the decision, or just...
Am I just nuts?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm glad you said it. No.
Well, my husband and family kept asking me, why do you want to do this? And I've asked myself a lot as I was preparing to declare. And the most important reason that I want to do this is because I said I would do it. A couple of years ago, I was watching things on TV and in the press concerning Kaysville. And it made me really curious as to what was going on at City Hall and what was actually happening. And so I decided to kind of re-engage and get involved a little bit. Kaysville had a Kaysville University. That's where I met you. You were a candidate, and I figured most candidates would be there. So I attended some of those classes. It was a really good opportunity to learn and to meet some of the departments and to find out what really happens behind the scenes. And at that, I kept thinking, oh, well, I've got all these great suggestions. Let's do this and let's do this, and throwing out all these ideas, which were not very original, actually, or shattering, but still good ideas. It's just that we don't have the manpower to implement some of those things. And mostly they dealt with communication. How can we get the message out there so that people in the city know what's going on a little bit better? And I thought, well, okay, how can I make a difference here? And I remember talking to our city manager and also to our now mayor about that. And she said, that's great, but we don't have the people, we don't have the personnel to hire interns or to create this volunteer PR type committee. And so I said, well, I think that it's something that I'd like to do. So I decided to get involved, and basically I'm here because I said I would get involved and do something. An opening happened on Planning Commission, so I applied for it, and I've really been entertained, and I've really enjoyed being involved in that way. And so I thought, as a planning commissioner, I can do a lot of great things, and as a city council member, I can do even more.
So that's great. What is your background, and what do you feel that you will bring to the council if you are elected?
My background is in mortgage lending and commercial lending. That's where I started out, right out of high school. My husband and I got married really young and was going to BYU. So I started out as a mortgage loan processor, learned about land, learned about mortgages. Then I went on to become a development lending loan officer. I did a lot of commercial developments, so I understand land rights and property rights and development processes really well. And then about 15 years ago, my husband said, hey, let's start a company. And I said, okay, so jumped into that. My experience has been in senior level management. We've had hundreds of employees over the years. We have a couple of companies that we own. I'm really involved in the daily operations and bring a lot of leadership experiences to City Council potentially, and to the Planning Commission now. I like to go to the source, I like to make decisions, and I like to be able to kind of hear it from the horse's mouth. I don't really like to rely on hearsay and gossip. I like to actually find out what's going on directly. And so I feel like from a City Council perspective, I bring a lot of leadership. I'm really focused on relationships. I love solutions. I love being a problem solver. And I believe that I can use the relationships that I have within the city to create the camaraderie that we need to actually get things done. I think it's great to identify problems because there's always problems and challenges. But if you don't have the relationships to really communicate and to work together, to collaborate, you don't really get a lot done sometimes. It's kind of an ineffective way to be a leader. And I think in order to be a good leader, you have to have followers. And in order to have followers, you have to have relationships and friends. And so I feel that I can bring that to City Council. I'm very dedicated to results. As a planning commissioner, it's been really fun for me to be able to sit up there with my fellow commissioners and listen to some of the needs and some of the desires and concerns from the public when they come up to speak. And afterwards, I always follow it up. I'll call the different city managers and say, hey, someone mentioned that public safety was an issue here. Is this true? And if it's true, what can we do about it? Or, hey, I've heard that water pressure is low, or we have too much traffic on this road. I like to follow up and do the work and try to get to the source and try to create a solution. And as a council member, I can do that a lot more effectively.
Fantastic.
So.
And are there any issues within the city right now or things that are on your mind that you would like to focus more on if you do join the council?
One of the things that I'm hearing a lot as a planning commissioner is just the traffic along 200 North. I agree that we have a lot of traffic. There'll be a lot more growth and development there because we have some open land. And I think that because now that will be a main road for 3 major roadways or interchanges, I think that we really need to look at safety there and figure out how to kind of prepare for future growth and make sure that we're also preparing for future development so that we can support businesses if they decide they want to come there and settle and be part of our community. Another thing that I think could be even improved more in the city is communication. I know that as a city council, they do their very best to allow for public comment and also allow, they have their Saturday meetings and they'll often say in council meetings, hey, come talk to us after, which I think is great. But I would also love to be able to see some of that feedback happen from the council perspective during an open forum so that we can all benefit from their answers as a collective body. Because it's one thing for me to talk to one council member and say, hey, what are you going to do about this, or what can you do about this? And it just seems like it would be even better if they could kind of all address it. And I know that they can't do it for hours and hours, and meetings can't last, into the wee hours of the morning. But I think that there's maybe a balance. So I'd love to help with communication.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come and answer questions. The ballots will be mailed out in the middle of July, so be watching your mailboxes for those. And that decision for who will move from the primaries to the final election will be made in August, and we will move to the final election from there and have more candidate interaction at that time. So thank you so much for coming and taking the time.
Thank you. And I just want to give you a little shout out because Randy, seriously, you do so much behind the scenes.